Ambassador Crixtal of the Veloran Diplomatic Corps had seen many strange things in his 300 years of service to the Galactic Federation. He had witnessed the Thornax consume entire star systems with their locust-like hunger. He had observed the silicon-based crystalline collective communicate through harmonic vibrations that could shatter glass across 3 kilometers. He had even survived first contact with the Void Dwellers, beings so alien that merely looking at them caused temporary madness in most species. But nothing had prepared him for humans. The diplomatic vessel Harmony of Stars had been traveling through the neutral zone between Federation space and the newly discovered Sol system for 3 standard days. Crixtal stood in the observation lounge, his 4 eyes fixed on the approaching blue-green planet that the humans called Earth. Behind him, his assistant Prilax was reviewing the first contact protocols for the 100th time. "Ambassador," Prilax said, her voice trembling slightly, "the human delegation has requested permission to bring their companions aboard our vessel for the formal reception." Crixtal turned slowly, his chitinous body clicking as he moved. "Companions, I was not informed of additional delegates." "They are not delegates, Ambassador. They are called pets. The humans insist they cannot leave them behind." "Pets, like decorative organisms. Many species keep small creatures for aesthetic purposes." "Not exactly, Ambassador." Prilax pulled up a holographic display. "According to our intelligence reports, humans keep a wide variety of organisms as companions. Some are small and relatively harmless, but others are apex predators from their home world." Felt his secondary heart begin to beat faster. Apex predators. They keep predators in their living spaces. Surely this is a translation error. "No error, Ambassador. The human delegation includes Captain Sarah Chen, who keeps something called a German Shepherd. It is a carnivorous pack hunter descended from wolves, which are among the most efficient predators on Earth. Lieutenant Marcus Webb has a creature called a Maine Coon cat, which is a smaller but equally deadly hunter. And Dr. Elena Rodriguez keeps something called a Burmese python, which is a constricting serpent capable of killing prey much larger than itself." Crixtal's mandibles clicked in distress. "And they wish to bring these killing machines onto our ship. This is madness." "That was my initial assessment as well, Ambassador, but our behavioral analysts suggest otherwise. They believe the humans are genuinely attached to these creatures. They share living quarters with them. They feed them. They love them." They love predators." "It appears so, Ambassador. The humans seem to form deep emotional bonds with almost any creature, regardless of how dangerous it may be. They call this phenomenon pack bonding." Crixtal stood in silence for a long moment. In all his years of diplomatic service, he had never encountered anything quite like this. Most species in the Federation avoided predators at all costs. The very sight of a carnivore triggered ancient flight responses in prey species like the Velorans. But the humans did not seem to care about danger. "Very well," Crixtal said finally. "Grant their request, but inform security to be on high alert." The human shuttle docked 3 hours later, had assembled the full diplomatic corps in the main reception hall, along with a security detail of 20 armed guards. The airlock hissed open, and the humans emerged. Captain Sarah Chen came first. She was a small creature by human standards, barely 2 meters tall, with dark hair and darker eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. She moved with the easy confidence of a warrior. Behind her came a creature that made every Veloran in the room take an involuntary step backward. The German Shepherd was massive, easily 60 kilograms of muscle, teeth, and predatory instinct. Its eyes were fixed on the assembled aliens with an intensity that spoke of countless generations of hunting evolution. When it opened its mouth to pant, Crixtal saw teeth designed for tearing flesh. "Ambassador Crixtal," Captain Chen said, extending her hand in the human gesture of greeting. "Thank you for receiving us. This is Max." She gestured to the predator beside her, as casually as if she were introducing a colleague. Max is your pet, Crystal managed, fighting every instinct that screamed at him to flee. He's my partner, Chen corrected with a warm smile. We've been together for 7 years. He saved my life twice and I've saved his once. I couldn't imagine life without him. As she spoke, she reached down and scratched the creature behind its ears. The German shepherd's tail began to wag, and the terrifying predator suddenly looked almost happy. It leaned into Chen's touch with obvious pleasure. The creature trusted the human utterly, and she clearly felt the same way about it. Lieutenant Webb came next, carrying a large furry creature in his arms. The Maine Coon cat was smaller than the dog but no less predatory. Its eyes were slitted and calculating. "This is Duchess," Webb said proudly. "She's a bit nervous around new people, but once she gets to know you, she's the sweetest thing in the galaxy." The cat hissed at Crystal, displaying teeth like tiny daggers. "She likes you," Webb added, apparently serious. Finally, Dr. Rodriguez entered, and Crystal felt his primary heart nearly stop. Coiled around the doctor's shoulders was a serpent. It was easily 3 meters long, with scales that gleamed iridescent in the ship's lighting and a head the size of Crystal's fist. "This is Noodle," Rodriguez said, stroking the serpent's head with obvious affection. "She's a rescue. Someone abandoned her when she got too big, but she's been my baby for 5 years now." The serpent turned its head toward Crystal, and for a moment their eyes met. The creature's gaze was cold and ancient. Then it simply lost interest and turned back to nuzzle against Rodriguez's neck. "Shall we proceed to the conference room?" Captain Chen asked pleasantly, as if she had not just walked into a formal diplomatic reception with enough combined predatory power to slaughter everyone present. Crystal looked at his security team. Several of them had their weapons half drawn. But the humans stood there calmly, their deadly companions as relaxed as if they were in their own homes. "Yes," Crystal said slowly, "let us proceed." As he led the way to the conference room, he found himself stealing glances at the humans and their pets. The German shepherd walked beside Chen with perfect discipline. The cat had climbed onto Webb's shoulder. The serpent had wrapped itself more securely around Rodriguez. They were not prisoners, they were not weapons, they were family. The conference room had been arranged according to Federation standards. Crystal had ordered additional space cleared for the human delegation, uncertain how much room their pets would require. He had not expected the German shepherd to immediately curl up at Captain Chen's feet and fall asleep. "Max gets tired after new experiences," Chen explained, noticing his look of surprise. "All the new smells and sounds wear him out." "Is that safe?" Crystal asked carefully. "If he is sleeping, he cannot protect you." Chen laughed warmly. "Max isn't here to protect me, Ambassador. He's here because I can't bear to be away from him for too long. We're pack." "Pack? It's a human concept. Actually, it's a dog concept that we borrowed." She leaned forward earnestly. "Dogs descended from wolves, and wolves live in family groups called packs. The pack works together, hunts together, protects each other. When humans first domesticated dogs, we became part of their pack. They became part of ours. You merged your social structures. More than that, we merged our hearts." Chen reached down and gently stroked Max's sleeping form. "Dogs can read human emotions better than any other species on Earth. They know when we're sad, when we're happy, when we're scared, and they respond. When I cry, Max puts his head in my lap. When I'm anxious, he presses against my leg. He doesn't do it because he's trained to. He does it because he cares." Crystal struggled to process this. In Veloran society, animals were tools at best and threats at worst. The idea of an animal caring about its owner's emotional state was utterly foreign. "But he is a predator," Crystal said. "Does he not have instincts to hunt, to kill?" "Of course he does. He's still a dog," Chen smiled. "But pack bonds are stronger than hunting instincts. Max would never hurt anyone in his pack, and I'm part of his pack. So are my friends, my family, and anyone I introduce to him as a friend." Lieutenant Webb nodded from his seat, where Duchess had curled up in his lap. "It's the same with cats, though they show it differently. Duchess brings me gifts every morning. Dead toys, mostly. It's her way of showing she cares for me." "She brings you dead things?" Prillex asked, her scales turning green with nausea. "It's a sign of affection," Webb explained. "In her mind, she's providing for me because I'm clearly a terrible hunter. She's taking care of me." Dr. Rodriguez shifted slightly, causing Noodle to adjust her coils. "Snakes are different again. They don't have the same kind of social bonds, but Noodle knows me. She recognizes my scent, my heat signature. When I handle her, she relaxes completely. She trusts me not to hurt her, and I trust her not to hurt me." "How can you trust a constricting serpent?" Crystal demanded. "It could kill you in moments." "She could," Rodriguez agreed calmly. "But she won't, because we've built a relationship based on trust and consistency. I've never given her a reason to see me as a threat. We understand each other." Sat back, his mind racing. Everything the humans were saying contradicted fundamental assumptions of Federation society. Predators and prey did not form bonds. Dangerous creatures were to be avoided or destroyed, not befriended. And yet here were the humans, casually cuddling with death itself. "I have a question," Prillex said hesitantly. "You mentioned that Max has saved Captain Chen's life twice. How?" Chen's expression grew serious. "The first time was when I was hiking. I didn't notice a cliff edge that had eroded. Max grabbed my sleeve and pulled me back. And the second time, someone tried to break into my apartment while I was sleeping. Max woke me up, then put himself between me and the intruder. He took a knife wound protecting me." Chen's voice grew soft. "The intruder ran when Max didn't back down. He was bleeding, hurt, but he wouldn't stop guarding me until he was sure I was safe. He was injured defending you, and you continued to keep him afterward." "Of course I did. I spent 3 days at the veterinary hospital with him. He protected me. I protected him. That's what pack means." Felt something shift in his understanding. The humans hadn't conquered these predators. They had befriended them. They had offered trust and received trust in return. They had created bonds that transcended the predator-prey dynamic entirely. "Ambassador," Captain Chen said, "I know this must seem strange. Many species react to our pets with fear, but I want you to understand something important." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "Humans don't keep dangerous pets because we're crazy or reckless. We keep them because we've learned something fundamental about relationships. Fear creates barriers. Trust creates bridges. Every species has the capacity for connection, even the ones that seem most dangerous. All it takes is someone willing to make the first move." Her eyes met Crystal's with something ancient and wise in them. "We believe that any creature, no matter how fierce, has the capacity for love, and we're willing to take the risk to prove it." The conference room fell silent. Crystal looked at the sleeping dog and purring cat and coiled serpent. "Captain Chen," he said slowly, "I believe I have much to learn from your species. Would you be willing to tell me more about this pack bonding?" Chen smiled like watching the sun rise. "I would be honored, Ambassador. Perhaps we could start with introductions. Would you like to pet Max?" Crystal's every instinct screamed at him to refuse. The predator was right there, with its teeth and claws. But sometimes, trust required taking a risk. "Yes," he said, his voice steady despite his fear. "I believe I would." The weeks that followed were unlike anything had experienced in his long diplomatic career. The human delegation remained aboard the Harmony of Stars as negotiations for Earth's entry into the Galactic Federation continued, and with each passing day, Crystal found his understanding of humans deepening. It started with Max. The German Shepherd had been terrifying on first meeting, but as Crystal spent more time around the creature, he began to notice things he had missed before. The way Max's tail wagged when he saw a familiar face, the soft sounds he made when Chen scratched behind his ears, the gentle manner in which he accepted treats from crew members who had overcome their initial fear. 3 days after the first meeting, Crystal had worked up the courage to pet Max himself. The dog had simply looked up at him with warm brown eyes, sniffed his hand, and leaned into the touch with obvious pleasure. "He likes you," Chen had said. "Max doesn't like everyone. He's a good judge of character." "How can you tell he likes me?" "See how he's leaning into your hand? That's called pushing. Dogs do it when they want more affection, and his tail is wagging slowly and loosely. That means he's relaxed and happy." Crystal studied the dog's behavior with the same intensity he would apply to diplomatic negotiations. Over the following days, he learned to read Max's body language with increasing accuracy. And slowly, something remarkable happened. Crystal stopped being afraid. He remained fully aware that Max could cause serious injury if provoked, but he also came to understand that Max had no desire to hurt him. The dog had accepted Crystal as part of his extended pack. News of the human delegation spread through the ship like wildfire. At first, the other species reacted with fear and confusion, but as days turned to weeks, something remarkable began to happen. The humans made friends. It started with the ship's engineering staff. Lieutenant Webb had brought Duchess to the engineering bay, and the cat had immediately claimed the warmest spot in the room, directly on top of a heat exchanger. The Thrax engineers had been terrified at first. Their species had evolved on a world with large predatory insects, but Duchess simply ignored them. She curled up and went asleep, showing no interest in the insects whatsoever. Over the following days, the Thrax gradually relaxed. Duchess did not hunt them. She did not stalk them. She mostly slept and demanded attention from Webb. And then one of the Thrax did something extraordinary. Chief Engineer Crick had been watching Duchess for nearly a week. Finally, driven by curiosity, he approached the cat while she was awake. "May I touch the creature?" he asked Webb, his antennae trembling. "Sure, just let her sniff your hand first. Approach slowly." Crick extended one of his forearms toward Duchess. The cat looked up at him, sniffed his chitinous hand, and then rubbed her head against his fingers. The sound Crick made was translated as extreme surprise and unexpected pleasure. "She is so soft," he said with wonder. "I did not expect a predator to feel so soft." From that moment on, Crick became Duchess's second favorite person on the ship. Within a month, the cat had become the unofficial mascot of the engineering department. Similar scenes played out across the ship. Max had won over the security team by demonstrating his training. Even Noodle had found admirers among the xenobiologists. But the most significant change was happening aboard the ship as a whole. The presence of the human pets had forced the various species to confront their assumptions about danger and trust. Barriers that had stood for centuries began to crumble. The Velorans and the Thrax, who had always maintained cool professional distance, found themselves bonding over their shared experiences with Duchess. The pets had become ambassadors in their own right, bridging gaps that diplomacy alone had never been able to close. "Captain Chen," Crystal said one evening, "I am beginning to suspect that your species' ability to bond with dangerous animals may have broader implications." "Oh, you do not merely form alliances of convenience. You form genuine connections. You invest emotionally in beings very different from yourselves. You take risks based on trust rather than guarantees." He paused. "I wonder if this explains why humans have been so successful in first-contact situations." Chen was quiet for a moment. "I never thought of it that way, but you might be right. Humans do tend to assume that any intelligent being is capable of becoming a friend." "The Federation has existed for 10,000 years," Crystal said. In that time, we have made contact with hundreds of species, but many of our relationships remain distant. We trade and negotiate, but we rarely become close. We rarely trust. He looked down at Max, who had rolled onto his back, exposing his vulnerable belly in his sleep. Your dog trusts you so completely that he sleeps in this position, totally defenseless. We do not have the capacity for such vulnerability. You could develop it, Chen said gently. Trust is a skill, it can be learned. Perhaps it starts with small steps, like petting a dog. Chen smiled. That's exactly how it starts. The crisis came without warning. The harmony of stars was transiting through a region of space known as the void margin when the alarms began to sound. Was in his quarters when the ship shuddered violently, throwing him against the wall. Emergency lights flashed red. All senior staff to the bridge, the captain's voice announced. We are under attack. Rushed to the bridge to find chaos. The main view screen showed 3 vessels of unfamiliar design closing on their position. They were dark, angular ships covered in what looked like spines or teeth. Who are they? Crystal demanded. Ship Captain Velix looked grim. Raiders, they call themselves the Keth Syndicate. They prey on ships in this region. Our weapons are damaged from the initial attack. We cannot fight. Can we run? Our engines are compromised. They will catch us. Velix's voice was flat with defeat. I am preparing to negotiate for the safety of the crew. Felt cold horror spread through him. The Keth were brutal and unpredictable. Ambassador, Captain Chen's voice came from behind him. We might have an option. He turned to find the human delegation entering the bridge. Chen's expression was calm but focused. Behind her, Max walked close at her heel, his body tense and alert. The dog was no longer the friendly companion Crystal had come to know. He was something else now, a wolf in all but name. Captain Chen, this is not your fight, Velix said. Please return to your quarters. With respect, Captain, it is our fight. We're on this ship too. Chen stepped forward. Lieutenant Webb, Dr. Rodriguez, and I have experience with hostile boarding situations. Let us help. What can 3 humans and their pets do against armed raiders? Chen smiled, but it was not warm. It was the smile of a predator. You might be surprised. The Keth boarding party came through the main airlock 40 minutes later. There were 20 of them, heavily armed and confident. They had done this 100 times before. They did not expect resistance. The first Keth through the airlock found himself facing Captain Sarah Chen. She stood alone, apparently unarmed, her hands raised. Welcome aboard, she said pleasantly. I'm here to negotiate. The Keth leader, a hulking creature with gray skin and cybernetic implants, laughed. Negotiate. There is no negotiation. You will give us what we want or you will die. I see, that's unfortunate. I was hoping we could resolve this peacefully. You have no choice. Actually, Chen said, her smile widening, I do. She whistled. Max came out of the shadows like a missile. 60 kilograms of protective fury slammed into the Keth leader, knocking him flat. Before the raider could recover, the German shepherd had his throat in its jaws, not biting down but holding. The other Keth raised their weapons, but they were too slow. Lieutenant Webb emerged from a side corridor, Duchess riding on his shoulder. The cat launched herself at the nearest raider, all claws and fury, going straight for his face. Dr. Rodriguez appeared behind them, and Noodle was no longer coiled peacefully. The python had dropped to the ground and was moving with terrifying speed toward the Keth's legs. Before they could react, the serpent had wrapped itself around 2 raiders, sending them crashing to the deck. And then the humans themselves engaged. It turned out that Captain Chen had not mentioned her extensive combat training. She moved through the Keth with brutal efficiency. Lieutenant Webb was right behind her. Even Dr. Rodriguez proved surprisingly capable. But it was the pets that made the difference. The Keth had expected resistance from armed crew members. They had not expected animals. They had no training, no protocols, no experience with creatures that attacked from the shadows, that worked in perfect coordination with their human partners. Max released the leader at Chen's command and immediately moved to intercept another raider. Duchess had moved on to creating chaos among the others. Noodle was serving as a trip hazard, appearing suddenly to entangle legs. The humans and their pets fought as a pack. It was over in minutes. Half the boarding party was down. The other half had fled back to their ship. When the Keth vessels retreated, the ship erupted in cheers. Crystal found Chen afterward. She was sitting on the floor, Max's head in her lap. "That was incredible," Crystal said. "I have never seen anything like it." "Pack tactics," Chen said simply. "Max and I have trained for this. We know how each other moves. When we fight together, we're more than the sum of our parts." "But how did you know what he would do?" "I didn't have to know, I trust him." She scratched behind Max's ears. "When you trust someone completely, you don't need to coordinate every move. You just flow together." Crystal looked at the dog, at the woman, at the bond between them. "Pack bonding," he said softly. "Pack bonding," Chen agreed. "It's not just about keeping pets. It's about learning to trust so completely that you can face any danger together. It's about knowing that someone has your back, absolutely and without reservation." She looked up at him with tired but triumphant eyes. "That's why humans keep dangerous pets. Because they teach us how to be dangerous ourselves, not through violence but through connection, through loyalty, through love." The story of the human pets spread throughout the Federation. Species that had dismissed humans as soft and sentimental were forced to reconsider. These were beings who had earned the loyalty of apex predators, who fought alongside their animal companions with seamless coordination. The Federation Council held an emergency session. Crystal was called to testify. "For 300 years," he said, "I have served the Federation as a diplomat, but I never truly understood what peace required until I met the humans and their pets." He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of delegates from 100 species. "We have built the Federation on mutual benefit and calculated self-interest. We cooperate because cooperation serves our goals, but we have never truly trusted each other. We have never formed the kinds of bonds that the humans form with their pets, bonds of genuine affection, of absolute loyalty, of love that transcends calculation." He paused, letting his words sink in. "The humans have something we lack. They have the ability to look at a dangerous creature and see a potential friend. They have the courage to extend trust before trust is earned. And because of this, they have allies that would die for them, not because of treaties, but because of love." His voice grew stronger. "I have seen a human and her dog fight side by side against impossible odds. I have seen what pack bonding truly means, and I tell you now, it is the most powerful force I have ever witnessed." He straightened to his full height. "If the Federation is to survive, we must learn from the humans. We must learn to trust. We must learn to see other beings not as threats or tools, but as potential family. The humans keep dangerous pets because they understand something fundamental about connection, and if we are wise, we will learn from their example." The chamber was silent. Then applause began to spread. It started with the Thrax delegation, Crick and his colleagues who had learned to love a cat. It spread to the Velorans, to the other species who had witnessed the humans aboard the ship, and finally it filled the entire chamber. Earth was admitted to the Galactic Federation by unanimous vote. 1 year later, Crystal stood in his new office on Earth, looking out at the gardens of the first Federation embassy on the human homeworld. Behind him, curled up on a heated bed, was a creature he never would have imagined owning. Her name was Nova, and she was a German Shepherd puppy. Captain Chen had helped him select her, had guided him through training and bonding. It had not been easy. Crystal's instincts still sometimes screamed at him when Nova got too excited, when her teeth came too close. But he had learned to trust. He had learned to read her body language, to understand her needs, to see her not as a predator but as a companion. And slowly, carefully, they had formed a bond. Nova looked up at him now with warm brown eyes, her tail wagging slowly. She was not Max. She had her own personality, her own way of being. But she was his and he was hers. Pack. Ambassador, his aide called from the doorway. The delegation from the Crystalline Collective has arrived. They wish to discuss the new trust-building protocols. Send them in, Crystal said. He turned from the window and settled into his chair. Nova immediately rose and padded over to lie at his feet. The crystalline delegates entered, their silicon bodies chiming softly. They stopped short when they saw Nova. "You keep a predator," one of them said. "I keep a friend," Crystal replied. "Please sit. Let me tell you about pack bonding. I believe it may change the way you think about everything." And as he began to speak, Nova resting peacefully at his feet, Crystal felt profound hope for the future. The Federation had learned why humans kept dangerous pets. The answer was pack bonding. But the deeper answer, the truth that would transform galactic civilization, was something simpler and more powerful still. The answer was love. In the centuries that followed, the concept of pack bonding would spread throughout the Federation. Species that had never imagined forming bonds with other creatures began to experiment. Thrax engineers adopted cats. Veloran diplomats kept dogs. Even the Crystalline Collective found ways to form connections with the silicon-based fauna of their home world. And everywhere they went, the humans smiled and offered guidance, happy to share the secret that had made their species so resilient, so compassionate, so capable of forming alliances across the stars. Trust, connection, love. These were the gifts that humans brought to the galaxy, wrapped in fur and scales and feathers, offered freely to anyone brave enough to reach out and take them. The Federation had asked why humans kept dangerous pets. The universe had received an answer. And nothing would ever be the same.